Today's activity is about actually finding out what's underneath the church. My name is Anne Heathcote. I'm the church warden. I'm the latest in a long line of my family church wardens. And I'm also the project leader for the transformation of the church as you see it now. A long time ago, we asked people in the village what they wanted to use the church for, and most of them don't want to worship here, but they do want it for burials, marriages, and so on. And so we decided we got to make it into a community place as well as a church, and that started the process of the transformation to actually take it back to what it was, back to the future, which is an Anglo-Saxon church, medieval extensions, but open and available for anyone to use when they wanted it. Part of it is to try and date the church. We know it's Anglo-Saxon, we know it's medieval in parts, but in the churchyard there are many, many bodies. We also know there are some plague pits. We know we have an anchorite. We know we have a crypt where one of our previous priests may be buried. And so having Mercy and Archaeology in, they're using all their latest technology to try and give us a picture of what's underneath the church, what's in the churchyard, which way the church is facing, so we can identify the age of it. And it's just really interesting. I can't wait.
My name is Andy Gaunt. I'm archaeologist and director at Mercy and Archaeological Services. Today we're running a survey. We're going to be doing a measured survey of the building inside and out to look for wall thicknesses, heights of walls, recording windows, recording doors. We're also going to be using cameras to do a 3D photogrammetry survey. So this is where we take lots and lots of photos of all around the church, and then hopefully we can stitch them together, make 3D models of different parts of the church, zoom in on individual features, as I said, some of the interesting bits we find, look for stonework that's of interest and record that. So that's the external fabric of the building. That's all being recorded using various bits of electronic survey equipment, and then combined alongside that we're going to be doing ground penetrating radar. It's all tied together. We walk along, we set up grids on the floor, we walk along in what we call transects. The machine scans into the ground. It uses radar, and in short it's bouncing back off anything it hits in the ground, and we can map that, and we can piece together what we call time slices, hopefully through the floor, if there's walls, if there's remains of things, pits, that sort of thing. It should hopefully show up.
So this is the original rectangular Anglo-Saxon bit, and you can see the original roof line if you go up there. In 1165 it was given to the Hospitallers, and it's one of only two intact hospitaller churches left in the country. The other one's Carbrook in Norfolk. And when they came, after a while, they knocked through that wall and put on the north aisle. Then they put the south aisle on in the 1300s, and the chancel and the tower were put on in about 1400s. They left in the 1540s when Henry VIII got rid of them. We've got plague pits, we think, well, I'm sure, because I'm the latest in a long line of church wardens, and everyone said there are plague pits in there. Because they were hospitallers here, they would have looked after people who were ill, so that's probably why we've got two fairly big plague pits in the churchyard. It hasn't changed any at all, the building hasn't, except it was full of Victoriana until 2020, when we had our Heritage Fund application approved, and I managed to raise a load more money as well, and we've ripped out all the Victorian stuff apart from the pulpit, and we've put in a suspended floor with all the utilities underneath, and all the superfast broadband and everything else you can see. If you've got any questions about the heritage of it, I will try and answer them. And I think that's it in a nutshell, very quick nutshell.
Well, the whole project's being run as a community archaeology project, so people coming in from the local area, so hopefully those people will learn about their local heritage, be involved in mapping and surveying their local heritage, so get much more attachment to the site and to the place. But there are people who will be coming from further afield who don't know the site, so they're going to learn about this place, see it in its beautiful surroundings for a start, which is a fantastic location with the river nearby, etc. It's about understanding a site like this. They're going to be learning about archaeology and the practices of archaeology, the science of archaeology, so they'll get that from it. But at the same time, they'll understand more about this site, and that ties into the rest of the country, to the wider landscape.
My name's Andrew McFarlane, and I've had a lifelong interest in archaeology. And I remember seeing documentaries on the BBC when I was a kid, and I just thought that looks fascinating. An adventure just by digging down into the earth and finding out about the lives of people, either the great or the ordinary, throughout history, and being able to piece together evidence of what was happening and where. It's unusual to be able to find a building in such good condition that's this old. So it's a very, very interesting place just to visit and stand inside. And also the fact that it's fairly unusual insofar as they've cleared the floor spaces in here. If you look at most churches, they're full of pews, but that's a relatively recent innovation. This is much more an authentic view of how a medieval church should look in its interior space. A wide open, airy sort of place. And on a beautiful day like this as well, there wouldn't even have been any need for artificial light, and it would have made stained glass windows, had they been fitted, really vibrant with colour.
What I would like to find is evidence that we did have an anchorite. An anchorite was a person who was buried within the church while she or he, usually she, was still alive. And the reason for that was that they were supported by the village. The villagers would give her food and look after her in the church in return for prayers being said, and she would have a squint through to the altar. We have an evidence of a squint here. We have evidence of the entrance into the anchorite cell. She would have died in there. We may find her body, or remains of her body, or evidence that she was in there, and that would be really exciting.
But we're going to do what we call resection, or triangulation, upside down, so that it can figure out where it is. The control points we've taken out there are all done in Ordnance Survey Grid Reference System. So they basically, it's a grid with an easting and a northing, an X and a Y, set up to cover the whole of the UK. And the bottom southwest corner, the bottom left-hand corner of that grid, is off below the Scilly Isles, basically. The top right-hand corner of that grid is beyond the Shetland Isles. But it's all measured in metres. So the numbers that are on there for the easting will tell you that we're some 400,000 metres east and we're 300 and something thousand metres north. I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but that's what it'll tell us. So each one is individual, but this thing will work out the distance and angle to those points and then work out where it is on that grid. Then we can start using it, and we can start measuring in points in the building, and it will also put those points straight into the same grid. So we're now mapping in the Ordnance Survey Grid Reference System. Very good for people, hopefully. It gives them a good opportunity to meet people with similar interests as well. So we gain from that because we get to talk to everybody. We pick up stuff that we don't necessarily think about ourselves. It's useful for everybody, and you are meeting people who've got historical interest, etc. So it's a great way to spend your time.
These sorts of workshops are not necessarily for those who have a fanatical interest in church architecture. If you have a general interest in history, these are very well worthwhile coming on. Community projects like this discover so much useful history, and I strongly recommend just coming along purely for your own information and enjoyment, because it is a very worthwhile thing to do, and I think most people would get a lot out of it.